The absolute worst mistake my high school bully ever made wasn't shoving me into a locker or pouring spoiled milk over my head in the cafeteria. It was thinking that because I wore the same raggedy hoodie every day and lived in a trailer park, I didn't have a voice that could absolutely dismantle his entire existence. Imagine standing on a stage with the person who has made your life a living hell for 4 years, watching their smug face turn into a mask of pure terror as you reveal a secret that could ruin their family's reputation forever, all while the entire school captures it on their phones. I had nothing left to lose, but he had everything, and I stripped it all away with 60 seconds of rhyme and a beat that felt like a heartbeat. Was I wrong for taking it that far and airing his family's dirtiest laundry in front of everyone? Or did he finally get exactly what he deserved for trying to break me? I need you to listen to how this started and tell me if you would have stayed silent, or if you would have burned it all down just like I did. To understand why I did what I did, you have to understand my life back then. I was the kid who sat in the back of the class with my hood up, scribbling furiously into a notebook that I never let anyone see. People thought I was weird or maybe just antisocial, but the truth was that those pages were my only escape from a reality that felt like a suffocating weight. My mom worked 2 jobs just to keep the lights on in our cramped mobile home, and I spent my nights listening to old school hip hop through a pair of headphones held together by duct tape. Words were my currency because I didn't have any actual money. Then there was Tyler. Tyler was the quintessential golden boy of our small town, the son of a wealthy real estate developer who basically owned half the county. He drove a brand new lifted truck, wore clothes that cost more than my mom's monthly rent, and he made it his personal mission to remind me every single day that I was beneath him. It started with small comments about the smell of my clothes or the fact that I qualified for free lunch, but by senior year, it had escalated into something much more sinister. He didn't just want to tease me, he wanted to crush my spirit. He wasn't alone either. He had this group of sycophants who followed him around like a personal fan club, laughing at every cruel joke he made at my expense. They lived in the same gated community, went to the same summer camps, and looked down on anyone who couldn't afford a new pair of designer sneakers every month. To them, I was just background noise, a glitch in their perfect suburban life. My house was a tiny silver box on the edge of town surrounded by gravel and rust, while theirs were mansions with manicured lawns and security systems. The disparity was something Tyler pointed out every single chance he got. He'd walk past me in the hall and whisper things like, "Hey, does your house have wheels so the repo man can tow it away faster?" Or, "I saw your mom at the diner last night. Tell her the coffee was as cheap as your shoes." I just gripped my notebook tighter, feeling the ink on the pages as the only thing keeping me grounded. I didn't have a father around to stand up for me, and I couldn't tell my mom because she was already carrying the weight of the world on her shoulders. I didn't want to be one more problem for her to solve. So I poured all that resentment, all that observation of the town's social hierarchy into my rhymes. I studied the way the town worked. I noticed who was cheating on who, which rich families were actually drowning in credit card debt, and how the social elite looked down on the very people who kept the town running. I became a ghost in the machine, watching everything and saying nothing. One afternoon, Tyler and his crew cornered me behind the gym. He snatched my notebook out of my hand, the one filled with months of lyrics, and started reading them aloud in a mocking, high-pitched voice. He laughed at my rhymes about poverty, my dreams of making it out, and the pain of watching my mom struggle. He called it trashy poetry, and then, with a smirk that I can still see when I close my eyes, he tossed the notebook into a puddle of muddy water and stepped on it, grinding the pages into the dirt. He told me that garbage belongs in the mud and walked away, leaving me trembling with a rage so hot it felt like it was going to consume me. That was the moment something shifted inside of me. I realized that as long as I played the victim, he would always be the predator. I went home that night, fished the ruined notebook out of the trash, and started writing something new. I wasn't writing about my pain anymore. I was writing about his. See, living in a small town means people talk. And because my mom worked as a cleaning lady for some of the wealthiest families in the area, she heard things. She spent her days scrubbing the floors of the people Tyler considered his peers. She saw the liquor bottles hidden in the hampers of perfect housewives. She saw the final notices from banks hidden under expensive marble paperweights. She didn't tell me these things to be a gossip. She told me because she was tired and needed to vent about how the people who treated her like dirt were often the most broken. She heard things about Tyler's perfect father, Mr. Sterling, the man who was currently running for a seat on the city council on a platform of family values and fiscal responsibility. She heard about the shady business deals, the hidden bank accounts, and the fact that their perfect family was built on a foundation of lies and debt. I took every single one of those secrets and wove them into a lyrical masterpiece. I didn't just want to hurt Tyler. I wanted to dismantle the entire illusion of superiority that his family used as a weapon. I spent weeks refining the verses, ensuring every rhyme was sharp, every metaphor was a direct hit, and every syllable was backed by cold, hard facts. I practiced in the woods behind the trailer park, projecting my voice until the birds flew from the trees. I wasn't just a kid with a notebook anymore. I was a ticking time bomb. The opportunity for my revenge came in the form of the annual Senior Talent Showcase. Usually it was just a bunch of girls doing dance routines or guys playing mediocre guitar covers. But this year, Tyler decided he wanted to show the school how it's done by performing a rap. He hired a professional beat maker and had a ghostwriter craft a verse about how he was the king of the school. He thought he was going to walk onto that stage and solidify his status as the untouchable god of our graduating class. He even went as far as to mock me in the cafeteria a week before the show, leaning over my table to say, "Hey, trailer trash, I hope you come to the show. You might learn what actual music sounds like." I just smiled, a real, genuine smile that seemed to confuse him. I signed up at the very last second, using a fake name on the roster so he wouldn't see me coming. I listed myself simply as the Ghost. On the night of the show, the auditorium was packed. Every student, teacher, and parent was there, including Tyler's parents sitting in the front row, looking proud and untouchable. Mr. Sterling was wearing a suit that probably cost more than my car, waving to potential voters. Tyler went on before me, and honestly, he was okay, but it was all flash and no substance. He had backup dancers and expensive lighting, but his lyrics were hollow. He finished his set to roaring applause, looking like he'd already won. When the MC announced the next performer as the Ghost, I stepped out from the shadows. I wasn't wearing my raggedy hoodie anymore. I was wearing a plain black tee, and I had a confidence they had never seen from the poor kid. The room went silent as the beat dropped, a heavy, dark boom-bap rhythm that I'd spent weeks perfecting on a borrowed laptop. I looked Tyler right in the eyes as he stood off stage, and then I opened my mouth. The first few lines were a blur of technical skill that left the audience gasping. My flow was faster and tighter than anything they'd ever heard. I started by dismantling Tyler's ego, mocking his fake tough guy persona and his reliance on his daddy's money. I spoke about the way he treated the janitors, the way he laughed at kids who couldn't afford the prom, and the way he thought his bank account made him a man. But then the tone shifted. I started dropping the details my mom had overheard. I rapped about the foreclosures his father was hiding, the mistress in the next town over whose rent was being paid by campaign donations, and the fact that their perfect family was built on a foundation of lies and debt. I took every single one of those secrets and wove them into a lyrical masterpiece. I didn't just want to hurt Tyler. I wanted to dismantle the entire illusion of superiority that his family used as a weapon. I spent weeks refining the verses, ensuring every rhyme was sharp, every metaphor was a direct hit, and every syllable was backed by cold, hard facts. I practiced in the woods behind the trailer park, projecting my voice until the birds flew from the trees. I wasn't just a kid with a notebook anymore. I was a ticking time bomb. The opportunity for my revenge came in the form of the annual Senior Talent Showcase. Usually, it was just a bunch of girls doing dance routines or guys playing mediocre guitar covers. But this year, Tyler decided he wanted to show the school how it's done by performing a rap. He hired a professional beat maker and had a ghostwriter craft a verse about how he was the king of the school. He thought he was going to walk onto that stage and solidify his status as the untouchable god of our graduating class. He even went as far as to mock me in the cafeteria a week before the show, leaning over my table to say, "Hey, trailer trash, I hope you come to the show. You might learn what actual music sounds like." I just smiled, a real, genuine smile that seemed to confuse him. I signed up at the very last second, using a fake name on the roster so he wouldn't see me coming. I listed myself simply as the Ghost. The auditorium went from stunned silence to a low roar of murmurs. I could see Tyler's father turning a deep shade of purple, his jaw tightening as he looked around the room. Tyler himself looked like he wanted to melt into the floorboards. I was no longer the quiet kid in the back of the class. I was a surgeon, and my words were the scalpel, cutting through the layers of their lies. I could feel the energy in the room shifting. The students who had been bullied by Tyler were leaning forward, their eyes wide. The teachers looked horrified, but they couldn't look away. I was telling the story that everyone felt, but no one dared to say. So that is the situation I found myself in, standing on that stage with the power to either finish him off or show mercy. I had the entire school's attention, and I knew that once these words left my lips, there was no going back. His family's life would be changed forever, and my life as the invisible kid would be over. Before I tell you how I ended that verse and what happened the moment the music stopped, I want you to pause right now. Go down to the comments and tell me, would you have dropped the final bombshell? Would you have exposed his family's darkest secrets to get back at a bully? Or is that taking things too far? Remember, Tyler didn't just tease me, he tried to destroy my future and my self-worth. I really want to know what you would have done in my shoes. The beat reached a crescendo, and I didn't hold back. I delivered the final blow, a verse that detailed exactly how Tyler's dad had scammed his own employees out of their pensions to fund their lavish lifestyle, including the very shoes Tyler was wearing on stage. I ended the rap with a line that still echoes in that auditorium. You called my lyrics garbage and put them in the mud, but your whole empire is built on the people's blood. I dropped the mic, literally, and walked off the stage. For 3 seconds, you could have heard a pin drop. It was the kind of silence that feels heavy, like the air before a lightning strike. Then the place erupted. It wasn't just applause, it was a riot of shock and realization. People were standing up, shouting and pointing at the front row. Tyler's parents scrambled out of their seats and bolted for the exit, followed by a swarm of people with their phones out, recording every second of their humiliating retreat. Tyler tried to come at me backstage, his face wet with tears of rage and humiliation. He swung a wild punch, but his own friends, the guys who had helped him corner me behind the gym, stepped in the way. They didn't do it to protect me. They did it because they didn't want to be associated with him anymore. They saw the ship sinking, and they were the first rats to jump. They pushed him back, telling him he was pathetic and done. He stood there, alone in the hallway, looking like the very person he used to mock. The aftermath was swifter than I expected. The local news picked up on the allegations I'd made, and within a week, an investigation was opened into his father's business practices. People who had been silenced by the Sterling family's influence suddenly found their courage and came forward with their own stories of being cheated. Turns out, everything I'd rapped about was true, and then some. His father was eventually indicted for fraud, embezzlement, and tax evasion. The Sterling name became a curse in our town. They lost the house, the cars, and that perfect reputation they had spent decades building on the backs of others. Tyler had to move away to live with an aunt in another state, leaving school before graduation because he couldn't show his face in those halls again. As for me, the video of my performance went viral. I didn't even post it. A dozen different kids did. I started getting calls from producers and labels who couldn't believe a kid from a trailer park had that kind of lyrical ability and the guts to use it. They called me the truth teller. I didn't just get my revenge, I got a career. I moved my mom into a house with a real foundation and a yard that she doesn't have to scrub for anyone else. She doesn't have to work 2 jobs anymore, and I never have to worry about the cost of a notebook again. I have a whole room dedicated to my music now, filled with the best equipment money can buy. But I still keep that muddy, ruined notebook on my shelf. As a reminder, I realized that the best way to deal with a bully isn't to sink to their level of physical violence, but to use the one thing they can't take from you, your truth and your talent. Tyler tried to bury me, but he didn't realize I was a seed. He thought he was putting me in my place, but he was actually giving me the fertilizer I needed to grow. Every time I step into a recording booth now, I think of that puddle behind the gym. I think of the way the air felt in that auditorium. I use that fire to fuel my music, making sure every word I speak has weight and meaning. I've seen the highest highs and the lowest lows, and I can tell you that nothing feels as good as being authentically yourself while watching a bully realize they have no power over you. Looking back, some people say I was cruel for involving his parents, but I believe that if you live a lie and use that lie to oppress others, you forfeit the right to privacy. Tyler's parents weren't innocent bystanders. They were the ones who taught him that money made him better than me. They were the ones who funded his cruelty with stolen money. My story is proof that your current circumstances don't define your potential, and your voice is the most powerful weapon you own. Don't ever let someone make you feel small just because they have more stuff than you. Stuff can be taken away in a single minute, but your talent and your resilience are yours forever. At the end of the day, character is what remains when the money runs out. Like this video if you were on my side and think Tyler got what came up to him. Hit that subscribe button for more stories about people finding their power and standing up to the world. I want to hear your final thoughts on this whole mess in the comments section. Was I a hero for exposing the truth, or did I go too far by ruining a whole family? Let's talk about it. I'll see you all in the next story.